Okay.
All right, we're live. So hi everybody, welcome to the Nightingale sprint number 3. It was a 3-week sprint, as most of the sprints are this release. Let's move on to the different parts of the scrums. So on the platform side, do you want to give an update there, Ray?
Sure. So we now have a gate in place on Sonar. A gate is basically an acceptable level of failures. The gate is now at 0 vulnerabilities, 0 bugs. Sonar runs every night, and the gate will report a failure if any new code is introduced that fails those checks. We removed a bunch of stuff that was deprecated in 110. I also set up a build status channel on Slack if anybody's interested in seeing what these build failures look like. So basically the Maven build, the Sonar build, and the error-prone build will all report there rather than spamming people with email. So this way people will know right away if new code has broken any of the sort of quality builds. And that's it from my side.
Cool. There were also, so let me add also on behalf of Jordan and I, there were a number of defects that were fixed in a distributed core and as part of the testing with Comcast, such as issues with Atomic, some distributed stores, the component configuration service, and a number of others, including a number of defects also in a segment routing service. Now, a lot of these were cherry-picked across, they were originally done on 1.11, but we've cherry-picked them to go onto the forward releases as well, which is 1.11 and 1.13. Also, the 7400, is that Jordan's first?
I believe that is the one that's been showing up when we run STC as a check components failure.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's still being hunted down. Got it. All right. Now, on the ISSU side, there was really not much work because Jordan's been primarily focused on Comcast-related issues. So this is the ISSU work has largely hibernated. One piece of it that's still in progress is the work that was started last sprint on the EC version of the flow rule store to make it ready to do ISSU. And that's it. So on the dynamic configuration side, is Utah there?
Yeah. So basically, we updated bug fix and some feature information in the Yank tools, and we bumped it up to 2.4. There was some regression reported in the process, and I think it's mostly fixed. Other sort of little enhancement we did was that we wanted to be able to sort of change Yank to version without releasing the whole bug Yank plugin. So we added a mechanism so that you can specify which version you want to use and switch between them accordingly. And in the background, dynamic config subsystem 2.0 design is in progress. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Utah. P4 runtime?
Yeah, so all the P4 Brigade members have been pretty busy with the NWC demo work. So there was one big story in Jira related to this, that for what you consider ONOS produced mostly bug fixes in Fabric.P4 and SPGate.P4. Then we have 2 outstanding patches on Garrett that are under review, and this comes from those come from the community and are related to support for meters in P4 runtime, which is actually under review, or actually the review is finished. We're waiting for some final testing. And then also support for multicast group in Fabric.P4 using the BMP2 Thrift API. That's also under review. And that's all for this sprint.
All right, excellent, thank you. gRPC API, now this is Jen's work. Is there anybody to give update? If not, I can probably breeze through it.
I don't think so.
Okay. So this basically just continuing slowly the work that was started earlier on adding the various facets of the gRPC API to ONOS. So now the flow entry rule protobuf model is done. Flow rule, so flow entry and flow rule, and then they also refactor meter request, and band translators and adapters. And currently the path service is being added. There's I've noticed there are a number of gRPC related reviews which date back several weeks, so we need to make sure that those get looked at and either merged or addressed. On a web UI, I have not received any updates from Stephen, but I did see Gerrit check-ins going in on a topology 2, specifically adding some toolbar functionality to bring it up to par with the topology 1 view. But I don't have any further details on this. On Localization Brigade, currently we have, as you can see, we have a number of locales done. The Dutch localization was finished, and also the documentation was updated for the various internationalization, for how to internationalize the views. A new flow view was internationalized. I mean, it's actually it's been done, I think, for a couple of weeks, but we finally got around to reviewing it and merging it. And so it'll need to be localized, and the Brigade is still looking for translators for various other languages, such as Portuguese, Japanese, German, and so forth. But it's actually, the matrix is getting pretty impressive, so that's pretty nice to see that work. We still have more views to internationalize, but it seems like the community is stepping up doing that work, so that's great to hear. All right. Mark or Yuta, do you guys want to talk about Packet-Optical?
Okay. So Packet-Optical, so it's most of the activities related to ODKN activities. And so there were two things that need to be defined. One was the loss-bound side, what kind of the Yang model they want to use on top of ONOS, and that's almost pretty much fixed, and that has been done. And we still need to go to the open config side and define which part of the Yang. Those are the things that are happening in parallel. Other sort of related stuff that was to add an asynchronous API for netcon susbound, so that we don't have a fixed timeout that often was timing out on slow responsive dispatches. So we now have a workaround for that at API level. And last piece is pretty much just software development ongoing in ODTN. That's it.
All right, thank you. I received update from Claudine that the Virtualization Brigade members were largely busy with doing other work. Just remember, these are community members that work for our company, so some of the work was preempted, and so this spring there was nothing done. And they knew they were not going to be able to do anything this spring. This was according to plan. All right, I think with that, we're ready to move to the QA portion. Is John there, or Suchitra, somebody wants to cover it?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we focused on. So getting all of our Jenkins jobs from the QA Jenkins to the ONOS project Jenkins. So most of that is done. There's a couple of issues that are blocking some things, but nothing major. Then we also have been focusing on trellis testing. So there's some work on there, adding some test suites for that. So there's the routing test, the DHCP relay tests, and then updating some of the bridging tests. Then I wrote a test for doing the offline backups of ONOS and recovering from those. Using, as part of the trellis tests, some of the hardware doesn't support link down, I guess, in the software. So we're doing that through ONOS using the port state command. And then we investigated some failures in latency tests and in the bug group tests, and there's a bug for those correspondingly. Next. So there's a couple tasks still in progress. Working on the segment routing tests. There's some new graphs that kind of help visualize the test results as a whole instead of individual tests. That's some of the ongoing work with the new Jenkins. I am working on creating a version of the HA tests that work with similar topology and applications and configurations as the Comcast deployment. And then there's some failures with the DHCP relay and routing tests for the segment routing, and I think there's already a bug filed for one of those issues. And then we have not started working with Comcast to create drivers for the devices that they're using. We're in contact with them. We just need to find time to sync up. That's all I had.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bug stats.
Okay. So for this sprint, there were 8 bugs resolved and 17 bugs created, which brings us to a total of 224 open bugs. I think we had planned next sprint to, or sometime during this release, to kind of go through and try to close some of those open bugs that maybe are no longer valid. But there's also a couple of high priority bugs that we saw.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have the bug scrub, right? And so we identified the critical bugs to be fixed for this release.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next sprint is the sprint 4. The planning for it is going to be held on Tuesday. It's going to start next Tuesday. Again, it's going to be 3-week sprint. Some of it clearly is going to, is going to overlap with the Mobile World Conference in Barcelona. The planning, the details are, it's going to be at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's on our calendar. I haven't created the sprints yet. I will do that later today. I will create the sprints, close the sprints for the current sprint that just ended. And people can start doing planning probably Tuesday morning, start populating the sprints with the stories for describing the work. And I think that's it. I don't think we had any demos for this sprint, maybe.
Nope.
All right. So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you next Tuesday. See you then.
Sounds good. Thanks, Thomas.
Okay. Bye-bye.